Good evening, and welcome to the Squatcher's Lounge podcast. Tonight we'll be regaling you with Halloween stories, and only the most blood-curdling will do. What frightens you the most about Sasquatch? Because I certainly know what frightens me. You know what they say about a cryptid with big feet. So now I give you the ringmaster of this circus.
12% of the population is scared of clowns.
The Reverend Jeff Kelly.
Welcome aboard, everybody. Come on inside. I got a story to tell you. I got some stories to tell you on the Squatcher's Lounge podcast. Yeah, that's right. I am here, and it is the Halloween edition of the Squatcher's Lounge podcast. And with me, as always, right over here. He's over there. No. He's over there. This is my sidekick, David, Father Mentor. How you doing?
Good. As long as I can stay in the clown character.
That's right. Well, welcome aboard, everybody, to the Squatcher's Lounge podcast. And we do know, indeed, that 12% of the population out there is, indeed, afraid of clowns. And I am one of them. I really am. I hate these friggin' things. And, you know, before you guys get any really good ideas about what's going on out there, if you decide to don a clown mask and come running at me with me, they don't make me fear and run away. They make me angry and want to punch them into the ground continuously until they no longer move. So just kind of be all known about it now. If you come charging at me wearing a clown costume, you're probably going to get the absolute shit kicked out of you. But welcome to the podcast tonight. It's Halloween edition. Talk to me about it, David. What have you been doing to prepare for this?
Well, yeah, I've been thinking about like what is the scariest aspect of Sasquatch? Not just like the actual the fear factor of seeing a large bipedal primate covered in hair that's not supposed to exist. I mean, that's kind of frightening in and of itself. But like, you know, what are the stories that really like, you know, play on the best parts of our fears? And you know, there's quite a few.
There is.
Like I don't know how like it's hard to get so specific. I mean, you could get just, you know, mired up in the details of these encounters and whatnot. But like I mean, that's the first question that I ask myself is, Jeff, what is the scariest aspect of Sasquatch for you? I mean, like it's like I mean that's where we got to go with this thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where we're going to go tonight, where those creepy crawly places that make the back of your hair stand up on the back of your neck when you think about them deep down. Excuse me, I got new headphones and I'm working on them, so forgive me if I'm playing with my ears just a little bit. Now, first up this evening, we got a little bit of news stories we're going to go through. As I promised earlier, the elk squatch. I got to show you guys the elk squatch and what I personally feel is going on with the elk squatch. So let's go ahead and bring this up now. Earlier on in the day, this beautiful HD video of a herd of elk in a magnificent field running through, and people all of a sudden think that there's a Bigfoot in it. Now watch closely, because the guy's he's really intense on what he's doing. And right there it is. Right there, folks, is your elk squatch. He's hiding in the woods over there. Now, nobody expected him to be there, and that's why he's hiding over there. Now, there's another 20 seconds or so of video, so let's go ahead and play this through.
Nobody expected Sasquatch to be in the woods.
Right.
Yeah, well, I do like this guy's commentary. I mean, it's very much like, you know, like film noir. Like, you know, he's like, you know, and everything went to shit in a New York minute.
That's right.
But he's talking about the elk. He's interested in the elk. He's filming the elk.
Right.
And so did he review this film, or like I'm still like, you know, I'm catching back up to this, or was it somebody else that was like, oh my god?
When he went back to the hotel and they reviewed it up on the computer, everybody's like, oh, what the hell is that behind there? I can see something in the background. So this is the Depot Inn going, is this a Bigfoot sighting? What's that behind the elk? So, you know, I decided to take a quick look at it a little bit. You know, I've got some investigation skills myself, and what I've come to find out was, well, let's take a look at it. First thing I did was went ahead and just grabbed a good screen capture of what was going on. So let's go ahead and take a look at that big monster there. That would be this one. Okay, so here we got the little circle is the size it is in the natural video, and the big circle is, well, a little bit of a blow-up of it.
Well, but I thought that was two independent Sasquatch.
Oh, no.
You use two different colored circles or something, so we don't know there's two Sasquatch there.
Well, no, that's why I used the same colored Sasquatch color so that you could see that there was only one. If I used two colors, that would mean there were two different Sasquatches. I want you to see.
That's a very good code. We should start using that, actually. Like MK Davis, when you're circling Sasquatch... No, it was somebody else who circled all those. Anyway, like, you know, when you're circling all the Sasquatch in the Patterson-Gimlin film, use different colors. That'll help us.
That'll help us see which ones you're trying to determine. So, you know, I got to looking at this, and it's like, you know, it's interesting. It's got some weird shape. Now, mind you, this is Connor. This is pine forest. This is some sort of pine forest. All pine. You can see it in the video. You can see it in this picture. It's all pine. Now, this is just a natural cut right out of the video. Where's his legs?
Well, obviously they're cloaking.
Where's his leg? Where's the bottom of where? Is he like one of these? Remember the old Rock'em Sock'em robots?
I do.
That's you know, this is like the top half of a Rock'em Sock'em robot that's, you know, kind of not had his head jacked up but his body jacked up. So all of a sudden we're missing the bottom half of his body, and then, well, I didn't know it, but I took the same kind of a picture of what that Sasquatch is up in the Sierras the last trip I was up there, and well, there's your little culprit right there. It's dead pine, people. It's branches of dead pine. It's not a Sasquatch. It's not a Sasquatch. It's not a Bigfoot. Some people will agree with me. Some people won't agree with me. But Justin Smeha and I have gone out and torn plenty of pieces that look just like this off because it's a beautiful fire starter, like the little pines on fire, and dinner is served. So, you know,
that and some Doritos. If you're really short on fire start, use Doritos. Oh,
yeah, throw some Doritos down in there, flick it with a Bic, boy. You're ready to go. But yeah, I mean, that's literally what we're dealing with, some dead tree pine branches. Unfortunately, it's not a Sasquatch. Sorry there, the depot. In my professional Bigfoot opinion is it's not a Bigfoot. What do you think?
I just like that you can say that now. I'm still an amateur Sasquatcher. Somebody needs to pay me for something, and then I can be a professional Sasquatch hunter.
That's right. That's right.
I have a hat.
In my professional, you know, and I'm not a professional because I was a contestant on a game show either. You know, I'm a professional because I am a professional paid Bigfooter. That's amazing to my life.
Expert.
Bigfoot expert guru, I believe they put it. You know, they put me up there with the Dalai Lama. You know, that's some definite good stuff going on. All right, so next up in the news, you know, I got to tell you, I like Les Stroud. Okay, please, people, don't get on me about, oh, he's Canadian, eh? You know, you can't talk bad about Canadians, eh? It's like Canada. Look, I like Canada. It's like America's hat. You know, it's like you got like 35 million people living in America's hat. The rest of it's just great open hunting and fishing lands for me. It's awesome, okay? But here's Les Stroud. He's back in Bigfoot territory. I guess he's doing some type of a new Bigfoot show. And I'm in Hoopa, California in the mountains trying to shoot this episode. Man, everything's going wrong. Craziest shoot I've ever attempted. I've been here a week and got nothing to show for it. Rain held me back, camera's not working right, people messing up, just never ending. Maybe it's the smell of the pot in the air. Every bend that you take in the road, you smell a new flavor of pot. Deep in the surrounding hills, there's numerous pot farms and meth labs. How many meth labs did you come across? Because I haven't come across that many meth labs up there, but that's just me. But he's claiming it's a dangerous place, and I'm trying to keep clear of those areas. It's like, dude, I wandered around like Bluff Creek and Willow Creek for days on end in places I never saw one grow. I never saw one meth lab. I never saw one anything while I was up there. So I have no clue what he's talking about every bend you turn around. But
maybe he's used to he's used to BC where like up there like you run into the grow operation and they're like, hey man, hey, he's like, hey, here's a start, hey, have a good day.
It's like, I don't need any trouble, and neither do I. Have a good day, eh?
Here's the start, eh?
Yeah, I'm only growing 11 plants, eh? It's okay.
But no, I mean, it is dangerous in particular areas, and if you're going into the wrong places, like, let's just put it this way: there are places up in my area that abut Canada. It's like the whole ridgeline system goes into Canada, and that's a problem for importation of some black market drugs. Like pot's not really an issue anymore up here because it's legal, but so there's other things that are coming across that border and things that are being exported across that border, car parts and all sorts of crazy stuff, and anyway, so I don't go there. You know why? Because like there's no Sasquatch evidence it's going to be worth me going to these bad areas where people can literally walk shit across the border. I mean, there's black helicopters all over the place. Like, it's not conspiracy theory. It's that bad people do bad things on the logging roads that go up there. Okay. Simple as that. Like if you think that Department of Natural Resources is underfunded to create roads that go all the way through there, the international cartels are plenty funded to finish those roads. So again, you don't go where it's dangerous. So if Les is going, if they're putting him where it's dangerous, they should rethink, zoom out on Google Earth and try a new tactic of where they can go that's probably not so bad. Because you know what? Sasquatch aren't going to be there either. That's my whole thing. And if he's complaining about it raining, welcome to the West Coast. Sorry.
Yeah. But it's definitely going to rain. Okay, guys, next up in the news, Tim Fasano, for some god-awful known reason, I saw this come across my feed, and y'all know me as a newsman. I got to have all kind of weird-ass people in my news feed. He's saying that inside this blue tarp was Sasquatch, that old fathead Dyer, old Dickie Dyer. He's got another Sasquatch or a Sam Squanch wrapped up inside of this blue tarp. Now, I don't know about you, David, or anybody else that's out there, but anybody that's ever killed an animal that bleeds, your tarp isn't ever this clean nor this tidy whenever you've got something wrapped up in it, even if it's skinned. I promise you that. However, late this evening, just as I was getting wrapped up with Shane Corson on his show, I happened to come across this magical little number here that I just had to share with everybody. That I noticed was posted in the lounge earlier today of said Bigfoot in the tarp surrounded by ice bags.
So the Bigfoot is in a plastic bag that's put in a tarp that's wrapped in ice that's next to a brick and concrete retaining wall in somebody's backyard.
Right. And if you do the math with the bags of ice, the Sasquatch is under 6.5 feet tall. Probably, if it were a body, would probably weigh less than 150 pounds. Well, yeah.
So somebody could actually probably identify those ice bags and the origin of such. It's a little shaky on YouTube. It's like probably somewhere in, let's say, Las Vegas, Nevada.
I don't think he lives there anymore.
Oh, well, where is Easton Ice from?
I want to say Idaho. Isn't that where he scantled off to after after he had to sell Hank to the marijuana dispensary in Texas?
Yeah. So Easton Ice. Somebody tell me where that bag is from.
Yeah,
Come into the lounge, the Squatchers Lounge on Facebook. Facebook.com/group/Squatchers Lounge, and tell us where this Easton Ice is from, so we can help put this poor corpse to rest. This poor corpse.
And he's gonna come back and say, "Oh, it was just a Halloween prank." Ha ha, we got another one over on you. Y'all believed us. No, we're just laughing at the dancing monkey. I haven't seen it on the news feeds yet. Nobody really gives two fly. Here, I got a picture. I got a picture that 100% sums up the number of people that this is a list of people who give a fuck. Right here.
Very nice.
For those of you who don't have us up on your screen, it is, I believe, it's a blank. It's a blank page presented by Richard Hammond. So again, it's just the perfect way to end all of that freaking nonsense.
Although I think that the authorities should really look into this and find this body because, I mean, by perpetrating so many Bigfoot hoaxes and Bigfoot slaughter in his past and dead things in bags and in ice or whatever, that could be a real corpse. It could be a person. Wouldn't that be the perfect excuse to dispose of a human body? Is oh, I'm gonna hoax Bigfoot a bunch of times and then I just want him to be poked at by the police again. That's just me.
Yeah, no
Conspiracy theory right here on the Squatchers Lounge podcast.
That's right. It could be a real dead body, and he's trying to get rid of it. Okay, this was pretty cool coming across my news feed. I saw it by a bunch of people. I believe Dr. Meldrum was even probably the first one that I saw it come from. Give credit where credit's due. I don't hate the man. People, please understand, I do not hate Dr. Meldrum. I just think he needs to stick to feet and to his specialties. That's only my thought on that. Anyhow, nocturnal foraging by wild chimpanzees, man. This is hot stuff. Nobody's ever caught chimpanzees at night going after food before. And I thought this was fantastic stuff. What are you thinking?
I love anything that has to do with known primates. The unknown primates is exciting, obviously, but the known primates, I'm every bit as curious about their behavior as anything else, and this is, I mean, it's really interesting to watch. I mean, you could suppose that they were going to do this, and you'd be well, obviously they forage at night, they're not going to be sleeping, yada yada yada. But to actually be able to document this, something we need to go look back at and okay, how did you get to that point? And as people trying to document an unknown primate, we need to really think about how did they get to that point where they could put that Bushnell camera, the same freaking camera that we're trying to put up there, and how did they get to the point where they did that? And we're nowhere near that because we don't have the right data, and we need to look at how did they get there and how did they put that freaking game camera up there and catch this whole troop of chimpanzees at night coming through there. I mean, that's pretty...
Getting it in the right place at the right time, expecting them to do it.
It just gets my frustration level up. It's why can't we do this?
It wasn't like it was...
hat.
It wasn't like it was a camera guy who just happened upon it and pulled up his camera. I mean, that was literally a game cam that was placed there to catch them specifically doing this. Some researcher went, I bet you they're coming through here at night. Let's put up a game cam here and check it out. And sure enough, I guess after a gazillion tries, they say, oh, sure enough, they're coming over here to eat, and they're doing it right over yonder.
Absolutely. So,
what? Hang on a second.
Hanging on.
Go ahead. Sorry, more technical difficulties. Yes.
Well, yeah. So basically, here we have the freaking Rick Dyer versus people doing primate research, and we have an ambiguous dead body in a blue tarp. Yeah, I could do that. Hey, it's me tied up with some freaking paracord.
Yeah, no joke.
Wiggling around. It's a large Sasquatch. That's amazing. But again, I don't know. I just keep pounding this. I'm gonna keep pounding this because that's what's gonna solve so many problems. I was having a conversation with somebody else. I don't like to name names on the podcast, but about somebody was like, well, I'm all for the pro-kill thing. I want to take one. I'm like, well, my whole argument isn't necessarily I'm not no-kill. I just don't think it's necessary because to be able to document something, I need like, you know, a particular amount of data to do it without killing it. But to kill it, you also need that same amount of data. So it's like you need the same amount of stuff no matter what to get to that point where you can set yourself up to film, to photograph, to shoot, to dart, to cage, to do whatever you're trying to do. You need that same amount of data to go into it. And why aren't we starting with that? Why aren't we going with that and making that happen?
Exactly. Now, the next thing I wanted to get up to in the news tonight, sorry about that, there's some really strange things going on here in California right now. It's 2 days before the 31st. I live amongst a lot of Asian people, and there's literally like 100 of them outside the window screaming at the moon. It's very strange. I don't know what's going on. I'm just reporting the facts. If I disappear in the middle of this, because literally somebody was just over there tapping at my window, you know, the purge started. Defend for yourself, because I'm just going to kill people on my way through the parking lot.
Just make sure to put that clown mask back on.
Boy, that's the first thing I'm grabbing, dude, because it'll scare the crap out of all these friggin' people. I don't really know what's going on, but I am a little concerned. However, I am armed at my desk, so we'll be okay. Dude, check this out. Picture in the Coalition for Bigfoot Sanity and Creativity and Nonsense of people who don't really give a flying crap that Bigfoot actually exists. Steven Stuford posted. This is a research map of Freeman. Paul Freeman's. This is Paul Freeman's research map. This is literally how much time, work, and years of effort the man put in researching Bigfoot. If you were just perpetrating a hoax over a couple of sightings, would you go this far?
Yeah. How do people find this stuff? It's great, but again, like, you know, what is the thought process? Where was the documentation that went into this? But like the fact that it's, you know, it exists, like, you know, why are people doing this? Why are people making notes? Why are people, you know, writing down all the, I mean, there's obviously, like, you know, his penmanship all over this and different things. He's trying to find an answer to his questions. And his questions come with some videos. Some are spurious, some are not, some are
a birthday party in the middle of trackcasts. We don't know exactly why.
Yeah.
But my point is just like, you know, with the Smiha story, you know, a man who 4 years later and not making any money from Bigfoot out of really anything ever, you know, if anything, friggin' Bigfoot bounty cost the man money, you know, they're still in it. What does that say about the story? Does it lend a little bit more credibility to it? I don't know. I'm just saying, who does that type of thing if it's just all out for a fake?
Well, here's the thing about like I'm just gonna say it here and now. Like, I am over drawing a line in the sand with this sort of like information. Like, you either like, okay, I like you have to state what's your position on the Freeman film. Like, so for so long I've been like, well, I like the Freeman film, like the one. You know, the oh, there he goes. You know, like,
there he goes.
Yeah, like you know, I like that one. That was one of the things that got me excited getting into this. Now, does that really solve anything, or does it do anything? No. Like, it's just interesting. So, like, does that, like, because somebody can debunk that in another breath, then I can say that it's interesting. Like, does that mean that, you know, I'm an idiot? No, it just means that, like, you know, this is one of the things that got me excited about this, but it doesn't solve anything. So how, like, you know, we get wrapped up in this minutia, like, you know, how do we solve this problem? Like, you know, I have these wonderful conversations with Matt Knapp from BigfootCrossroads.com, and he writes for Bigfoot Evidence.blogspot.com, and, like, you know, like, these wonderful like, how do you get to this point? Like, how do you get this, like, you know, like, you know, really just like nerdy freaking conversations, and everything that we've gotten so far is just not breached that, you know, how do you breach into truth? Like, you know, how do you breach into something that you can share? And then, yeah, I'm sorry, the whole Freeman thing, like, you know, this guy, obviously, he spent a lot of his life in doing this thing, and that doesn't make any sense if you're a hoaxer. But on the other hand, we just reported on Rick Dyer, who spent a lot of his life doing this thing. Like, again, we're left with nothing.
Exactly.
You're left with your own experiences or your own questions. Like Jeff's got his experiences, I've got my questions. But how do you break through that wall? And those are the questions that we should be asking, not where do you stand on the Patterson-Gimlin film? Like, well, no shit, it's been in existence for like forever, like for longer than I have been in existence. So that doesn't matter anymore.
How do you stand on Jesus walking on water? You know, I mean, it's that debate all over again. Now, one of the last things I got to get to out of the news, and then I'm going to get to something cool finally, or something really cool finally. This week, today, matter of fact, is happy birthday to the Mr. Fabulous Guy Edwards of the Bigfoot Lunch Club. That's right. Dude turned like 108 today. I'm not really sure how old he was. You know, I put up this picture of me and Walnut. We were out partying. You know, Walnut called me up and said, "Hey, Reverend Jeff, we got to go out and celebrate Guy Edwards' birthday." So I said, "Well, sure, Walnut. I mean, I'd love to go out and so this is how we end up last night celebrating Guy Edwards' birthday. You know, apparently, you know, this was funny to him, seeing as how today was actually Walnut's birthday. So, considering that, you know, I found my camera today, Walnut. You know, you wanted to know if there was any strange pictures on it that I might recognize. Well, I did find one. Not really sure if you want your wife to see this one or not, but that's how we were celebrating Guy Edwards' party last night. So
that's why you should not drink too much right there. Sorry, Walnut. I mean, you know, it's a fine specimen, but
there you go, buddy. So happy birthday to Mr. Guy Edwards. Sorry if it gets you into any trouble, my man. You know, David, it's been a little bit of time, but earlier tonight we were talking about the Hobbit people, and I guess it's finally come about that time.
5 minutes on science.
So I was reading this weird ass article about how the Hobbit people may actually not have been human, and I mentioned it to David, and he said, "Okay, let me get it straight for you." So get it straight for us, buddy.
So I like, this is where I get so. Like, science is cut and dried. There's a meticulous method, and it's what you do to find truth and facts. However, the media has to report exactly what is reportable. So when somebody writes a paper that is a hypothesis, they report that hypothesis. But so many times now, it's like people just take it as complete fact. And so the Homo floresiensis, like there was a lot of debate over whether or not it should be Homo floresiensis or not. And the fact that it got that designation says a lot of things. However, looking at some other artifacts back, you know, in history, now people are saying, well, maybe that was an Australopithecine, you know, that migrated all the way across, you know, Asia, through India, and down through Sumatra, and ended up as an island dwarfed Australopithecine. So the problem with that is there are no fossils of Australopithecine
anywhere outside of
that radiate from Africa, and there was no reason for the Australopithecine, which were not fully bipedal, like they did not migrate the same way that we did, because they didn't have the same tools of the full-on hips, and their arms were long, and they were still, like, I mean, shown to be, like, you can see where the muscles were, like, they were shown to still be arboreal for the most part. So you can't really break across some of these areas. It's possible, but not probable. However, you can show probability based on some distinct features. It's the same way with like Homo erectus in Africa and Homo habilis and Homo ergaster are all pretty similar. And if you look at the Homo erectus, which are the Dmanisi specimen, shows traits of all of the underlying, species that were found in Africa, which is confusing and confounding, which just means that there's a lot of variation in this whole thing. And then none of those things show the same features of the Homo erectus in East Asia. It's like, basically, we haven't solved this problem.
It's just like these things are still there, and we have no clue how they got there, nor how anything developed.
But to take the Florenziensis completely out of the Homo genus, when the Homo genus is the only one that radiated out of Africa, like there's other, like, contemplative pieces, like, we're talking about, like, 3 inches of jawbone here and there. They're like, oh, well, this looks more like Australopithecus. Well, that's fine. It was a really early, the crossover species, when orthograde bipedalism was adapted. I'm just going to slam my fist down. There's no way of telling for sure without genetic DNA and a timeline, and we're even changing the timeline again from our split from Neanderthal, and like we're kind of moving everything back. And I think the genetic clock needs a good reworking, and if we could get enough data to do that, it would be great and kind of hone that down. But to just say, well, these are like, the way that they're reporting things is like, oh, the Florenziensis weren't Homo after all. It's very unlikely. It's as likely that they're just, a pongid, orangutan kind of species. It's more likely that it's that, and it was a juvenile, and we just totally got everything wrong, than it was an Australopithecine species, which is only found in Africa, and the radiation outside of that happens after we think that there's at least this gray area from, into the Homo genus. So it just drives me nuts. They got
on a bamboo raft and floated. Who the hell knows at this point?
Yeah, from East Africa to East Africa to Sumatra would be kind of a long float. I'm just going to put that out there.
Kon-Tiki did it from South America to Polynesia. Okay, so we don't know what the hell the Hobbit people are. I mean, we literally have like 3 specimens that even make up what the collection of bones that we have of the Hobbit people to start with. And until we can genome that whole friggin' thing, nobody knows where the hell that's going to fit in anyhow. So don't get your hopes up, people. These scientists just throw shit against the wall and wait for it to stick, just like the rest of us Bigfooters do. Isn't that about sum it up there, David?
Exactly, but my problem is with the reporting on, hey, I see a problem with this, and people report that. It's how we got the whole argument of oh, hey, somebody wants to clone a Neanderthal, and like we're looking for a willing human, like anatomically modern human woman to be the vessel. We're gonna attach this zygote to you, and boom. No, it was a hypothetical, and it was actually just misinterpreted from German to English, basically.
Nobody got time for that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not ethical. If we haven't done a mammoth yet, there's no reason that we're going to do a Neanderthal, because that's like a whole nother ball of wax we don't want to open. But it's the way that we report on these things, and things that are more exciting than maybe they should be. And so just be on the watch for some of these things, and definitely find 3 sources, or else throw it out.
Or come and watch the Squatcher Sounds podcast on Wednesday nights, and we'll make sure that we keep you up to date in the real deal. Well, that puts it out for us finally, guys. It's just about that time.
And now for tonight's topic.
That's right. Boy, do I look like hell. I've been podcasting all freaking day since 5 p.m. I'm just about wiped out. But we got it just in time to do something really cool here. Yeah, we want to talk about what are your favorite scary parts of most of the Bigfoot stories that are out there. It's like, me, for one, I don't like stuff reaching in the window. I was on with Shane Corson and his co-host earlier. And we're talking about Boggy Creek, where the creature reaches through the window to go to touch them, and it's just like, I'm not down with the clown with things just reaching through my window to touch me. That's kind of where I just want to punch on things. So what are you thinking, David?
Well, like my thing, like again, back to what scares you the most. You're just sitting in your study, like there's a bunch of pictures here, and hopefully I'm screen sharing these appropriately.
Yeah, they're good.
If you're just sitting there watching TV, leaning back in your lazy boy, and you look over your shoulder and you see this guy, I mean, just looking right into your eyeballs. There's so many of these things. Whoa, that's a person. That's still scary. Like,
that's
just
Michael
see
Jackson.
The face in the window. Like, that's, I mean, that your heart's pumping. You jump up. You're not even sure what you saw, but you know what you saw. I mean, that's I don't know. That's one of those things that really gets me. Even more so than like these guys down here with the scary.
Yeah, the scary Bigfoot stuff is kind of creepy. I mean, that stuff is. I like Bigfoot as a monster movies. I like them because I usually root for the Bigfoot. As a matter of fact, Exists is a fabulous movie, and everybody should go out and rent it and watch it. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'm a fan of Exists. That is the way it's going to be from here on out. Anyhow, my creepiest story, and we were talking about this earlier, was the Ape Canyon story of, you just asked out, you got on some hot gold, and you're finally getting some stuff out of the creek, and your boys are happy, and your equipment's out there. Next thing you know, you see a monkey ape people, and your dumbass friend takes a shot at it. The next thing you know, you got these things surrounding your cabin at night and throwing giant boulders down on it and harassing, and you have to defend yourself in the cabin. Dude, that's just like the scariest thing I can imagine would be to have, a pod of Sasquatch surround my freaking camp throwing boulders at me. Dude, how about you?
Well, isolation is the scariest thing for us. I mean, we're a social animal, right? And so if it's just you and a couple people versus unknown hordes, if you will, or it could have been one or two Sasquatch. It could have been less Sasquatch than there were people, and they could have been just fine to just run out and take care of the issue or what have you. But I mean, that's what we're afraid of, right? Is the unknown. Like there could be more of them than there are of us. That's always the fear. People are like, oh, you don't want to shoot a Sasquatch because what if there's more of them lurking around in the in the shadows? Like that's the fear that we have to deal with, and that's what's kept us alive for so many years, and that might be what keeps you alive when you're squatching. So listen to that voice when it says, hey, maybe I shouldn't go over there because I'm away from the fire and the group, and there might be some Sasquatch out there based on the last couple hours, what have you.
Oh, yeah, you would be surprised. We were sitting around the fire, and at night I don't wander far from the firelight to urinate. I'm not wandering 30 yards into the darkness to take a leak at night. It's not happening. And they were like, oh, really? Why not? I'm like, because I don't want to end up as food. They're like, oh. I was like, yeah, it's like you got to be smart about what you're doing when you're around the campsite. You make yourself a target at night. Now, you were going to talk about your scary story. Which is your favorite scary Bigfoot story?
Like it's a little bit different, but again, you talk about you're going into an area, hopefully, that you're assuming. Like at some point, you're assuming that this is an area that could have Sasquatch, and there's all these scary stories, and then why be stupid? The perfect example is like the Osman story. The interesting thing about the Albert Osman story is that it happened in in 1924. Yeah, okay, he doesn't tell people till it's 57 or something like that. Like it was pre-Patterson Gimlin that he started telling this story, or it was reported. And basically, I mean, dude's sleeping out. He's doing his thing, and he gets abducted. I mean, isn't abduction one of our greater fears? Like, whether it's alien abduction, whether it's like, a kidnapper, whether I mean, a Sasquatch is probably the scariest, one, because it's terrestrial. It seems natural to a point, and I mean, but just the psychological things that you have to deal with, like being picked up, thrown over the shoulder, like in the sleeping bag, just wondering what's going to happen to you on the other side. That is the type of thing that would mess with the body. I mean, I feel like that's one of the scariest things to me. Like not if a Sasquatch just pummeled you into the ground, because at least you'd know what's happening. Is that psychological damage of not knowing what's happening, and then you escape after all the alleged things that went on or whatnot. And whether you believe the story or not, that's superfluous, because we're talking about Halloween scary stories, and that's one of the scariest stories to me, is to be abducted, taken, held, and not know what your fate is going to be ultimately with a whole group of large primates you're pretty sure is going to eat you.
Can you imagine that? You're literally like all jumbled up at the bottom of the sack that he's got thrown over his back, and you're just with every step thumping in the bottom of the sack every time he steps up and down, and every time he has to throw you up to move you onto a bigger precipice. Your body's just kind of thumped up there as he climbs up and picks you up again and lifts you over his shoulder. Thump. He said that he traveled for some time, so that would be more than an hour to be wrapped up in this hot bag, your breath just suffocating you so much that you could probably barely breathe with all that hot air just stuffed in the bottom of that bag as you're sweating, you're panicking, you don't know what's coming next. And, all you can hear is this animal grunting and groaning as it's carrying you through the mountain passes, and then all of a sudden, thunk, you're sat down in the middle of this pod of big hairy creatures that want your attention.
And for what? And again, the communication, like
we were talking about
whether or not they have a language, whether or not they have this or that or the other, you cannot communicate. The line of communication is cut at the language level. Aggression, relaxation, and that's about it.
Right. I mean, Albert Ostman was not a habituator. He did not know that meant I need garlic or whatever the hell. I don't know, dude. But, to sit there for day after day.
He did know, don't do anything stupid or else they'll smash you.
Right. Well, the dude was a woodsman. He was a hunter. He knew how to hunt and kill bears. So, I mean, if he treated these things like bears, you'd probably not get ripped limb from limb. But finally, after day of not really knowing what these things want, to outsmart them by finally giving them the snuff to make them sick, and finally get that one moment to slip away, and then to have them looking for you as you're scurrying to get back to your camp to live to tell the story of Albert Ostman. But this is the one place that we get the Ostman pads as a description from the bottom of the feet of the Sasquatch, to say that they weren't just like hardened skin. They actually had like a softened pad, almost like the bottom of a bear would have. And that's where the Ostman pads description comes from, which is quite interesting because that gives it some credibility, per se.
It makes sense if you look at any animal in the area, dogs, cats, bears, rabbits, they all have pads. Like, we're one of the few animals that doesn't have pads. Well, honestly, our feet are different where people don't wear shoes. There are very few places left in the world where people do not wear shoes, and our feet are different. Actually, it was actually in grade school. They had somebody from East Africa come, like Ethiopia proper, and talk to us about how they grew up and how they and basically between villages was like 3 and 4 miles, and they would just run there. It was like no big deal. You just run there. No shoes. I mean, there's dangerous things all over the place, or what yeah, like so.
And
but he said
5.5.
he came to the United States, and this 3 to 10 mile run that he did, he couldn't do it anymore. He couldn't do it barefoot. His feet changed in shoes, like they softened up immediately, like one good pedicure and boom, 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 done. So like it stands to reason that's. I mean, it's a reasonable assessment, but it's also something somebody could have come up with. The interesting thing about the Osmond story, whether you believe it or not, is that it really is analogous with some of the other like Sasquatch stealing stories. Most of them are Sasquatch stealing children. My favorite, I must have referenced it probably like a dozen times on this podcast, is the Lummi story of Shani.
Tell us the story. Tell us the story.
Tell us the story.
Sorry.
So I'm going to go a little bit further than tell a story and kind of tell like not the specific story, but like go through and talk about some of the other cultures that have the same story, and why the Osmond story is so similar to the story is because at the end of it, and again there's bits and pieces that are the same, and I can actually I'll bring up a screen share of the graph here. There's a paper that somebody wrote about the story of Shani and Chuatlech of the Lummi tradition, because they're the same people basically. Like Shani is kind of the nice old lady, and she baits you in, and then when she's going to eat you, she becomes Chuatlech. Like when things get nefarious, Chuatlech comes out.
Bitches.
Yeah, exactly. And then like she puts it against like this old Germanic tale of Hansel and Gretel. It's very, very similar. The Russian tale of Baba Yaga. There's Suk and Tinglet, and like all these other tribal stories of the same problem. But if you look at the Osmond story, like it is the same thing, and the outcome usually, like the way that they free themselves, is by it's either it's a hero, or mostly it's by some sort of trickery or fooling of your captor, right? And violence isn't always prevalent. Like in the Osmond story, violence isn't there. There's some other of the traditional stories where violence isn't there. I mean, Hansel and Gretel, like they push the witch into the fire, into the kettle basically that she was going to cook them in. In the story of Shani or Chuatlech at that point, there's it's a good luck tradition. Like it's a symbol of good luck is a forked stick, and they take a forked stick and they push Chuatlech's face into the steam pit, into the hot rocks in the steam pit.
Nice.
And I mean that's pretty brutal, right? Like, but it's the older children that enact this and then save the younger children and all these other things. There's actually another, like just north of here, there's a story of that's the origin story of the tribe, is that, these children were stolen. They were, like basically they were victorious against the captor. They escaped, and then they became the tribe that is living there at this point. So there are a lot of different ways of using this allegory, but the very specific thing about the Lummi story, and why I love it, is it's perfect allegory that Chuatlech reached out to the crybabies. If you were crying in the night, the young children who would cry or would fuss, she would trick them and she would offer them good food. And if they took the food, she would snatch them and put them into the basket. She had this giant basket on her back. It was actually her hat. She would turn it backwards and turn it into a basket because she was a giant. And she would take the children, and then she would put the hat back on her head, and then they would be trapped. And she would seal their mouths and eyes with pitch, so they couldn't see and they couldn't yell out. And she would trick the next child, and then she would take them back and they would cook them. This is a perfect allegory for the plight of the Lummi tribe, which was that they were, I mean, they were a large tribe, but they were in the middle of all these other larger tribes, and they would get raided often. And they had to retreat into the forest, into the woods, and they had to keep the children quiet, or else the women and children weren't going to make it. Which is where the story came from. The interesting part, though, like, you know, like for all this allegory, and you can say like, oh well, this is to teach the kids this, or this is to, you know, don't go too far away from the firelight, don't go, you know, don't fuss, don't be a crybaby at night, don't, when you're scared, you know, just be quiet, you know, like to teach these things, but they didn't use anything that didn't exist. They didn't make things up to make the story happen. They made up the story with things that existed. Like, so that's this giant cannibal ogress is a very frightening thing. And it still is today, like, you know, out there, and like it's part of the culture, and it's part of like a very real thing to a lot of people. And that's why, that's one of the reasons, you know, one of the many reasons why I'm like, I just can't drop this subject, as much as like, you know, like I you know, I just let the whole Sasquatch thing go. I can't do it. It is one of these stories, and
there's always a grain of truth in the start of all of these stories.
Yeah, and so exactly where, like, I know why the story was created, but where did that story, what did they pull in to make that story work? And it seems pretty obvious that it was a very, very scary, very frightening thing, and that would steal your babies, and also would harass your women, and would also, one of the other things is they take the dried fish, they'd dry the salmon, and they'd take the salmon, and other things like that, like, you know, so not necessarily always a good omen or a good thing. They were thieves and possibly cannibals, like, you know, because they thought they were other people, they considered them cannibals. So very, very interesting, and like that's been true all over the place. But that story is well documented, and if anybody's actually interested, it was let me look up this domain really quick. It was actually like the Arizona, like ASU, a cross-cultural look at child stealing witches by Sonia Bird. A very interesting study that was done, and she looks at a lot of different things. She makes a lot of correlations, and she's looking at Europe and North America, and it's fascinating. But those are that's the scariest thing. It's like, you know, Dingo ate your baby. No, Sasquatch ate my baby.
Sasquatch ate my baby. You know, I have to apologize to all of my Asian friends around me. It was not your fault. All that noise earlier and the nonsense that was going on outside was because the Giants actually won the World Series. So apparently that's what goes on around here. People go knocking and rattling on windows and screaming like a bunch of freaking morons when one of their sports teams actually succeeds. So congratulations to the Giants. I'm very sorry to all of my Asian brother and sisters. So, Jesus, God in heaven help me. You know, that's really, David, that was awesome stuff, man. And that's really going to do it for us here this week on the podcast. I mean, it's happy Halloween to everybody. If you're going to go out this weekend, please be safe, be smart, x-ray your kids' food, eat all the big candy bars, don't give your kids any of that refined sugar because you're already going to hell. David? I'm going to wrap it up here.
Take it out with the scariest 911 call of all time.
Oh, yeah, let's take it out with that. That's perfect.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal, or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my central light came on, and I just happened to glance and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man, or something. It looks like a man. I don't know what it was. Just that it ran across the yard.
Okay. You've had problems in the neighborhood before?
Yeah, my dog was killed here just recently. I don't know what it was. Whatever it is, it's running. I couldn't catch it if I was going to chase it. But whatever it was standing up. I'm out here looking through the window now, and I don't see anything. I don't want to go outside. Jesus Christ, you better... Sheriff, Dia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Oh, and the guy is on foot. Just...
I don't know what. It's a big, real big person. That's all I can say.
Okay, but it is a person.
Yeah, I'd say it was a person, somebody really big. But he's all in black.
Is he a black male or a white male? Did you actually see whether, or was he just wearing black?
He's all black and he's big. He is big.
Dude, that's just like, I don't know what I would do about that, man. That's kind of like creepy. Creepy. The 911 operator, I think, didn't start to believe him. What are you thinking?
For me, it's just he goes from calm, cool, and collected to like obviously disturbed, and there's something really wrong going on out there, and he can't explain it because he doesn't believe it himself. That's what's interesting to me.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it's a man. He's really, really big and dressed all in black. Well, he's all black. That's the kind of thing that somebody's unsure of what they're believing they can see.
He's real big.
I saw just the other day, 911 call. An old man called in to say, across the street, there's a little boy sitting on the street corner over there by himself crying. You might want to send somebody to check on his well-being. He's over there sitting on the street corner crying. So they come by, and the police come to the old man's door, and they knock on the door, and he says, "Where?" He says, "You go by there and see that kid that's over there crying?" And he says, "Well, show me, old man. Which kid are you talking about?" So they walk out to the street, and the old man says, "That one right there across the street with the white cap on his hat." And the cop looks at him and says, "You mean the fire hydrant?" Exactly. And with that, that's going to bring it to the end of the Trick or Treat edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. For Father David Batdorf and myself, the Reverend Jeff Kelly, thank you very much for watching this evening. And until next time, may the Squatch be with you. I swear to God, I'm going to get me that God bless you, Sam Squanch. It's the last thing I do. Just wrap him up in this rug, Ricky. Beat him with some bats.
God damn it, Jeffrey, give me a Snapple.
Before I die, Sasquatch will be on that table. If I wanted your opinion, I'd give it to you.